Yo, what is up, my gamers in Christ? How are we doing today? Today is the date of Tuesday, December 30th. Did I read that right? December 30th, 2025. What are we doing today? I guess tomorrow will be a new year, huh? Anyways, we got a normal episode for you today. I wanted to do a longer episode, but unfortunately I had some stuff come up and we'll just have to do a normal episode today. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a special. I know, very heartbreaking, but we still got an action-packed episode. Turning the music down just a little bit so you guys can hear me. We still have an action-packed episode today, okay? We got our typical PBS News Hour, and then Matt Walsh, someone we haven't really talked about, has a question. Why are our neighborhoods not fun anymore? I'm not gonna finish that joke, but we got that to get into, and then if we have time, we'll watch some Rightoid Media. But real quick, I do have to let everybody know I'm live. So let me do that real quick. You know, I fall asleep to like ghost stories. I won't lie, I fall asleep to fucking ghost stories, right? And sometimes they'll just serve me some absolute, just, I don't know what was going on in the algorithm that day. One moment, my Discord is loading. Let me at everybody and say, let them know we're streaming. Live, my gamers in Christ. Hold up. It was letting me know. It was like, hey dude, you're sending this message out to a lot of people. Can't be doing that. Alright, anyways. Now that we have that going, I'd say we're probably... Oh, let me boot up my game first. I actually like this this creepy music here. Oh, Lily is having that was funny. Alright, we'll send it in Ice Beans chat because we love Ice Beans. If you don't know Ice Beans, go check her out. She's a great streamer. And you'll find me in her chat pretty frequently. Alright, but with that, I think that's about all the people we need to let know. Actually, hold on. We'll send one more in Dylan Burns. Actually, no, damn. Where's all the streamers, dang it? Did everybody just stop talking about politics? I guess so. Guess we all just stopped talking about politics, I guess. Anyways. Let me go to my YouTube HUD here. There we go. And I'd say without further ado, we can probably get into the news hour. But we gotta let this music go on. It's just too cool not to. And I need to load up my game. Last night I was stoned looking at the Steam store, and there were some fun games that I thought would be enjoyable. I still think Star Sector would be a fun game for us to play. So that might be on in the pipes, as they say. All right, let's try this again, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're on the cusp of beating this level, though. I do. I've got good feelings. And my feelings have never led me astray, actually. That's a fun fact. I've never been wrong. Did you guys know that? Yeah, not once have I ever been wrong. I think that's an achievement, honestly. Now that the music's over, let's grab the PBS NewsHour. We got a lot to talk about in terms of the PBS NewsHour, I'm sure. Let's see what we got here today, so I can kind of... So we got Trump says... Yeah, I sent this in chat, or in the Discord today, actually, or yesterday, about how Trump basically threatened Iran again. Middle East experts analyze chance of Gaza peace advancing. Excuse me. I think we'll probably... No, that'll be fine. Alright. Let's go.
Good evening, I'm Nick Schifrin. Jeff Bennett and Amna Nawaz are away. On the
No! Damn it! I love Jeff Bennett and Amna Nawaz. Why? Who is this joker?
NewsHour tonight, President Trump on the world stage, announcing a first ground attack on Venezuela and endorsing Israel's position in Gaza.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're fully engaging in war with Venezuela now, guys. Get excited. You know, I know most Americans don't want to go to war with Venezuela. But, Trump doesn't care about that. Trump wants to get that mean, nasty Maduro out of there, so...
The AI explosion, how artificial intelligence grew exponentially in 2025, and whether the boom could become a bubble. And Artful Healing, arts programs that help give hope to wounded warriors.
We have a mental health crisis. There's no one magic pill that's going to solve it all. And so the arts can play a role in helping fill that gap.
No, that sounds interesting.
Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions.
We love Leonard and Norma Chlorfine and Judy and
Norma Chlorfine
Peter
and
Bloom
the Judy and
Kovler,
Peter Bloom
the
Kovler Foundation.
BNSF Railways and Consumer Cellular.
And with the
Get your
ongoing support
phones
of
while
these
on a train.
individuals and institutions.
Excuse me. Shout out to John and D. Catherine McAther.
This program was made possible by the contributions to your
Wouldn't
PBS station
be able
from
to do it
viewers
without
like
you guys.
Thank you.
Welcome to the NewsHour. The United States has launched its first ground attack against Venezuela since the administration began its campaign to combat drug trafficking and pressure President Nicolas Maduro. We don't have many details, but President Trump confirmed the explosion today and said the target was along Venezuela's shore.
There was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. So we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement. And that is no longer.
That's where they implement the drugs, guys. What a fucking loser. That's where they implement the drugs. They implement them there.
Around.
This week, the U.S. deployed even more military assets to the Caribbean, adding to what is already the largest deployment of the U.S. Navy to that region in half a century. It's allowed the U.S. to strike at least 29 alleged drug boats and seize 2 sanctioned Venezuelan oil tankers and pursue a third. But the president wasn't focused only on Venezuela. Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin told Trump that Ukraine had tried to attack one of his residences. That's a claim that Trump accepted.
It's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they were offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that.
Oh, come on,
And
dude.
can't do it.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today strongly denied that Ukraine had launched the attack, calling it, quote, an obviously fake story that will only justify Russia's refusal to end the war. And when it comes to the
dude,
Middle
I feel
East
so
today,
bad
President
for
Trump threatened to
Zelensky.
restart war in Iran, accusing the country of, quote, trying to build up again. And the president, who has declared himself the president of peace, said Hamas must disarm
The
before
president
any progress
of
can be made
peace,
at
baby.
finalizing a peace deal in Gaza.
That's
This
what
week,
we're about
storm
here.
clouds
We do
loomed
the
over
peace
southern
thing.
Gaza, its sea of humanity huddled in canvas homes, anxious about tomorrow, and thunderstorms that flooded makeshift neighborhoods, and tents where floors turned to mud and babies were wrapped up to protect from the cold. The UN says 80% of Gaza is in ruins. There's a U.S. plan to reconstruct, but President Trump said today the first move was Hamas's.
If they don't disarm, as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then they'll be held to pay for them. And we don't want that. I'm not concerned about anything that Israel's doing. I'm concerned about what other people are
Gaza
doing
is
or maybe
gone.
aren't doing.
Oh, that's not good. No, I don't think it's quite gone yet, but the Israeli government has been trying their hardest.
The ceasefire agreement requires Hamas to disarm, but the group maintains it has a right to armed resistance, although it has discussed freezing or storing its
Oh,
arsenal.
Islam is a disease. It's one of these people. Okay. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
The ceasefire also requires all military operations suspended.
I'd say personally what's a bigger disease is the Christian nationalism in our country. I'd say Christianity is a bigger disease on the American culture than Islam is, personally. You don't see Islamic people trying to change our laws, but that's what the Christians are trying to do. Zionism is a disease. I agree, because Israel, it's Israel, not Palestine. I think a two-state solution is probably the best. I was raised Muslim. This is a Christian nation. No, it's not. How is it a Christian nation? Please explain to me in the Constitution where it says, this is a Christian nation and it's only to be run by Christians. It doesn't say that now, does it? Very interesting, huh?
The Palestinians accuse Israel of launching hundreds of attacks that since the ceasefire began have killed more than 400. Israel says they're responding to Hamas's
But to be quite frank, I don't think any religion deserves to be in our government. Built by Christians on Christian values. Oh, you're doing the sun god fallacy. You're doing the sun god fallacy. You see, if you go far enough back, we all worshipped the sun, so we should all just go by the sun god's logic, right? No, my friend. And if you look at our founders' writings instead of just believing what you hear from rightoid media, you'll quickly find out that our founding fathers were not quote unquote Christianly men.
Including fighters crossing over from the western side of the Yellow.
Oh, you are dumb. My mistake. No, I think you're the dumb one. Unfortunately.
Line to the Israeli-controlled eastern side.
What's
Senior
up,
US
RC,
and
by the way?
European
Good to see
officials
you.
say the plan for Phase 2 is to rebuild Rafah and eastern Gaza, not western Gaza, to persuade Palestinians to leave their destroyed western Gaza homes and cross the Yellow Line while handing over weapons for cash. The idea: isolate Hamas in western Gaza, making them an easier target. At the same time, Israeli forces would withdraw from their bases along the Yellow Line to be replaced by
you
countries
can go
that
with the cope that it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, but I don't know, I'm hitting you with straight facts and logic, and you're just coming at me with, oh, it's a Christian nation. Sorry, gang. That's not gonna fly.
officials say could include Italy, Azerbaijan, and Indonesia.
You didn't have to delete that.
Today-
I understood the two you were trying to use, by the way. Persian version. Interesting name.
Today, President Trump suggested Arab countries that supported the ceasefire could themselves
Is it kind of like the Nick Fuentes version?
disarm Hamas.
They were for the deal based on the fact
I have 3
Hamas-
bi-league degrees and you have Reddit. Well, then how are you getting absolutely stomped in a debate with me right now?
pledged. They swore.
You realized how stupid that Christian value claim was, so you kind of... Well, you got beat on that, and now you're just calling me names. Which is okay, I'm a big boy, but... I'd be personally more interested in the argument.
That they were going to disarm. Now, if they're not going to disarm, those same countries will wipe out Hamas.
But U.S. officials say there is no final deal with those or any countries to actually deploy into Gaza. And there's also no agreement on Gaza's future governance, which, in addition to a Trump-led board of peace, requires the naming of
We've already established why that claim is stupid, so you're going to need to bring up something else that that makes it a Christian nation. You can't just keep saying we were built on it, we were built on it. That's it. Christianity is just as bad as Islam. You killed the natives. What the fuck are you about? You are all illegal aliens. So dumb. I agree. We are all here. This is the melting pot of the world. And to say that you have to be Christian to be here is just, it's completely un-American. We're a secular nation. We're not some fucking, we're not a theocracy.
Political Palestinian Committee. For more, we turn to 2 NewsHour regulars, David Makovsky of the Washington Institute for Near East Policy and Hussein Ibish of the Arab Gulf States Initiative. Thanks very much. Welcome back to NewsHour to both of you. Hussein, let me start with you. Sure. You just heard at the end there, President Trump said that Arab countries would go in and disarm Hamas.
How am I talking mainstream Democratic talking points? I would like to know that, RC. Like, what is the mainstream Democratic talking point that I'm talking about today? Well, Persian, you probably should not be fighting yourself so hard in the comments then.
Did not disarm itself. Is that possible?
No. No one is going to do this dirty work. No one is going to clean up Israel's mess for it or Hamas's mess. These are the 2 parties that have created the reality in Gaza.
He spelled it wrong again. Persian, do you have like autocorrect or something? Because I know you mean the 2 with 2 O's, but you keep spelling it with 2, like the number.
There is no third party that's going to come in and resolve it to everyone else's satisfaction. So that's a fantasy. It's a fantasy that's
It's more than you, Persian. It's more than you.
existed from day one. But people should abandon that fantasy because it's not going to happen.
Abandon that fantasy?
Look, I think where Hussein and I agree is we don't see Hamas voluntarily disarming. They ruled through light weapons like AK-47s and the like.
Yep.
And we also agree that no international stabilization force, peacekeepers, call them whatever you will. And I talk to Arab officials all the time and said, David, we're not going in there. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's basically down to Israel. Or I was in Ramallah just recently. I just came back from the West Bank and Israel, and the Palestinian
You have
Authority
to
is
go
going to
feed
go
your
in.
kids. Okay, Bubs. Let me know when the Funko Pops are all cleaned up. And you can come back.
Right now, this government
Good luck
doesn't
on the
want it.
Funko
Well, let me
Pop
answer,
cleaning.
though. It's other Palestinians can disarm Hamas, but nobody else.
But of course, Israel rejects the Palestinian Authority going in, right?
Yeah, right. And in fact, Israel prefers to deal with Hamas than the PA because if you have a deranged enemy with an impossible goal like Hamas, that's kind of good for you. If you regard all Palestinians as the enemy, much more dangerous is the Palestinian Authority, which wants a small Palestinian state in the West Bank alongside Israel. That's an achievable goal, and that's scary for the Israelis.
David Makovsky, let me ask you this. I mean, you guys have been saying that no one will go in and do this. Israel and Hamas have to do this themselves. But does Israel want to go to the phase two? And frankly, does Hamas want? Or are they both satisfied with the status quo, and are they fearful of taking that next step?
No. I think, look, it's a very fair question. And for our viewers, there's a lot of details. So, I mean, I think what we're looking at, and here Hussein and I might disagree, I see two Gazas right now. Yeah. I see the yellow line, means within the green zone, where there's basically no Hamas or of substantial numbers.
This is basically east or south of that.
Right, whatever you want to call that.
Israeli-controlled Gaza.
Right, Israeli control, which is 53%. And there you could see some construction in Rafah, and you can envisage things getting better. The red zone, though, is where 90% of the Gazans actually live. And I should say we're almost
Is it
all the
laggy for you
trucks
guys
are
right
going
now?
on the
Sorry.
humanitarian.
I got a warning that YouTube wasn't getting enough video. Is it buffering for you guys right now?
Side, 4,200 a week. That's 600 a day. I remember we used to talk about 100 trucks during the war. Now there's 600 a day. But Hamas is there, and I feel the only ones are either Israel or the Palestinian Authority.
That's it.
Hussein thinks that Israel's fine. No, that Israel can live with that, and I am not as certain as he is.
You think Israel doesn't want the status
No, I
quo?
think they give this till March. They'll say we gave this a half a year for the second Gaza, the red zone Gaza. We're fine with the green zone Gaza. We'll do whatever Trump wants. We'll do whatever you want. But on the Hamas Gaza, if they don't disarm by March, when the weather starts getting better, Israel's going to start going in there in slices,
So I actually
militarily.
agree with that. I think that's right. But again, we're going to be back in the same unwinnable war. Israel's not going to do better in phase 5 of this war than they did in the first 4 phases that I count anyway. And now they're controlling not 53%, 58%. Almost all of the fertile land in Gaza is controlled by Israel, but almost all the Palestinians are huddled together on these sandy beaches where there's nothing. And it's not a sustainable reality for any of the 3 parties. For the Palestinian people, not at all. For Israel, it's, as David said, they're
Are
not
you
gonna
guys
be
getting
satisfied.
buffering?
And
Sorry,
in
I
the
don't
end,
mean
Hamas
to,
is not going to be happy.
Ask that again, but I'm getting a notification from YouTube that it's not receiving enough video. So I hope it's not buffering for you guys or anything.
Either. So this war is likely to start
Here,
again,
I'll open it up.
especially if the Israeli election is already over. I'm not sure Netanyahu wants
the fall.
by
2026,
October, but
right.
more likely
Be
by
like
May or something, June. I'm not sure Netanyahu wants to go into the election pursuing an unpopular war.
Well,
Elections
No,
are
has
coming up in
and Hamas,
Israel.
let me
That's
ask you
another
first, David
important
Makovsky,
point.
have Israel and Hamas lived up to the ceasefire so far?
look, I think in the big picture, and we may have some disagreements, Israel
sorry,
released
guys.
250 people convicted in courts for killing Israelis. That
Whoa.
was a big deal, life sentences, 1,700 detainees. 4,200 trucks a week, which was critical so people could have food at least, even though it's inadequate, as your setup piece says, because it's winter there. So, I mean, I don't, but I think
By
that
the way, guys,
those,
if you're
to me, were
enjoying
some
the
of big
stream,
ticket
please
issues,
remember to
things
like
like the
and
Rafah crossing.
subscribe. It really
it's a
helps
very
out the
fragile
channel.
ceasefire. There are, all sorts of
And
complaints about
gets the
violations
lib
on all sides.
message out
But
there.
I think in the big picture, yes, I just think the
So
disarmament issue
please
is
remember
not
to like and subscribe, ladies and
a
gentlemen.
footnote. It's central. If there's going to be a hope for the Gaza people, Hamas has got to get out of the way. And I don't see who's getting them out of the way. I disagree respectfully with the president that 59 countries are going to wipe them out.
No.
And I just don't think that happens. And you want to solve these things peacefully if you can. But I think Hamas's view is in the Middle East, the people who fire the shots call the shots and they fire the shots. So no one's going to displace them.
Hussein Emir, sorry, have Israel, have Hamas lived up to the ceasefire?
I was about to address that. Well, not really, because the key part of the ceasefire is stopping firing, ceasing firing, and that hasn't happened. Hamas has been doing incursions, but Israel has been keeping up a barrage of 7 to 9 people a day killed, and it's over 400, at least 80 of them are children. So that's not a ceasefire. In any other situation, you would say the war is, continues to bleed these people. It's only in comparison to the 90 a day or so that we had before. So I would say the answer is no. And the only alternative to Hamas is a Palestinian one, and it's the one thing I know Netanyahu is never going to agree to.
David McCoskey, just very quickly, I want to bring up what I brought up at the end of the piece. That is this plan to rebuild Rafah, which you mentioned, eastern Gaza, as a way to incentivize Palestinians not only to move, to leave their land right now, which will remain unconstructed, and move across the yellow line and disarm for money. We only have about 40 seconds left. Is that a realm of possibility that that could actually work?
I don't think it will in significant terms. Like 90% of the Gazans right now are on the Hamas side of the yellow line, which we say, whatever, 43% of the 47% of the West Bank, of Gaza, excuse me. I don't see the Gazans leaving their land for a promise on the other side when all the main cities are on the Hamas side. So that's why, to me, this was such a critical meeting in Mar-a-Lago. Is there a meeting of the minds about the red zone, about the Hamas side? Everything else you could work around.
This solution is a non-starter. It's not going to happen. The answer is no. To your question, the answer is no, that's not going to work. And neither is the status quo. So I'm afraid a return to war is very likely.
We'll have to leave it there. Hussein Ibish, David McCoskey, thanks to all
What
of
a
us.
doomer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Bunch of doomers here. Lloyd and over half of the Gaza Strip.
The day's other headlines begin with a massive storm spinning east with a dangerous mix of winter weather that snarled.
Yeah, this winter storm is affecting a lot of Americans. And California is still dealing with their mudslide issue, and no help from the U.S. Gov, no help from the Fed at all. They just like to watch our fellow Americans struggle.
Post-holiday travel for millions of Americans. Heavy snow and driving winds created whiteout conditions for drivers across much of the Midwest, causing accidents and one death in Iowa. More than 300,000 customers remain without power this evening, nearly a third of them in Michigan. Meantime, airlines are scrambling to get back on schedule after the storm canceled or delayed tens of thousands of flights in the last 3 days. Snow will continue around several of the Great Lakes through much of the week. The man charged with placing 2 pipe bombs in Washington, D.C.
Oh, here we go. The pipe bomb suspect. This is big news, guys. Remember, MAGA called this person a Democrat, or originally, and now, since it came out that they were upset about the election, now everybody's been real quiet about it. Interesting.
January 6th Capitol attack says he did so because he believed someone needed to, quote, speak up. In a new court filing, prosecutors said Brian Cole Jr. told investigators he believed the 2020 election was stolen. And he placed bombs
there
at
it
the Republican
is.
and Democratic National Committee headquarters to target both political parties since they were, quote, in charge. The explosives did not go off. Cole was arrested earlier this month after a nearly 5-year investigation. He has a detention hearing set for tomorrow. Returning to the war in Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky says the U.S. offered Kyiv security guarantees for 15 years to deter Russia from returning to war after a ceasefire. But that's far less than what Zelensky wanted, up to 50 years of guarantees. In a briefing with reporters conducted via WhatsApp, Zelensky said President Trump would think about extending the time frame. Zelensky added, quote, "Without security guarantees, realistically, this war will not end." Meanwhile, in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, at a permanent memorial, residents shared Zelensky's concern that Russian President Vladimir Putin could resume the war even if peace.
By the way, you guys might hear me say this a lot, but if you guys are enjoying this stream, please remember to like and subscribe. I do a show every day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. where I talk about the news, politics, and cover a rightoid of the day. So remember to like and subscribe to the stream.
We see our enemy. We know that talks don't stop him. Only real strength can stop him. So it's unlikely that these talks will stop the war.
On the ceasefire talks, the fate of Ukraine's eastern Donbass region and the Russian-held Zaporizhia nuclear power plant remain unresolved after weekend talks between President Zelensky and Trump. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, China staged a massive military exercise around the island today.
Yeah, whatever happened to the pivot to Asia, by the way? Remember how DJT was talking all about, oh, we're going to pivot to Asia, we're going to pivot, and we never did. Never did, sir. We're still in the Middle East as we speak. Maybe he got confused. Maybe the map was, the crowns had bled over into the wrong region. I don't know.
Possibly its largest live fire drills ever. Beijing called them, quote, a stern warning against outside interference. The drills come as Beijing promised to, quote, take forceful measures after the Trump administration approved the largest single weapons package to Taiwan in U.S. history. Taiwan has placed its forces on high alert. But President Trump tonight dismissed Taiwanese concerns, saying, quote, nothing worries me. They've been doing naval exercises, meaning Beijing, in the area for 20 years. Today, the U.S. announced its first major humanitarian agreement of the second Trump administration to distribute humanitarian aid with the United Nations. The U.S. pledged $2 billion, which the UN's emergency chief called landmark, but it's a fraction of the money the U.S. has historically contributed to UN agencies every year. The U.S. says the new funding mechanism is an attempt to reduce bloat by funneling money to a coordinating UN agency rather than individual agencies like UNICEF. Today's U.S. pledge also came with a threat. Those UN agencies, the State Department said, must, quote, adapt, shrink, or die.
Oh,
President
wow.
Trump today
How nice.
repeated a threat that
Adapt,
he may
shrink, or die. We love hearing that about, we love hearing the greatest nations say that about our collection of nations. We like that.
sue Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell for, quote, gross incompetence.
By the way, guys, remember to like the stream and subscribe if you're not already. I do a show from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day where I talk about the news, politics, and a rightoid of the day, so remember to give a like and a sub. And if we hit our daily sub goal of 5 subs, which I'll check right before I head out, we'll unlock a new Epstein file to go over, so make sure to subscribe to the stream for that.
He also said he would announce the next Fed chair sometime in January. Meantime, on Wall Street, stocks slipped from their recent record highs. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost more than 0.5%. So too did the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500 also closed slightly lower. Still to come on the NewsHour, the president pushes for the release of a former Colorado election official who tried to subvert the will of the voters in 2020. Tamara Keith and Amy Walter break down the latest political headlines. And from our video podcast, settle in author Malcolm Gladwell on the virtue of changing your mind.
Yeah, we'll probably skip that.
This is the PBS NewsHour from the David M. Rubenstein
I don't need to
studio
change
at
my mind.
WETA in Washington, headquarters of PBS News.
This year, perhaps the most significant business and economic story has been the development and spending around artificial intelligence. AI spending is driving one of the tech industry's most explosive periods and playing a big role in overall U.S.
Do you guys think
growth.
this is a bubble?
A few companies are churning
AI?
immense profits.
Do you think it'll bubble?
which posted record gains of $32 billion, a 65 increase in 1 year. But there are very real questions about whether this is a bubble. Jeff Bennett dived into that in a conversation he recorded recently.
Experts say this
Oh, let's go. Look at this Chad.
boom exceeds almost anything else you can imagine, spending that goes beyond what was spent on the Manhattan Project and the Apollo missions to space. But a number of experts are concerned that the trillions of dollars spent and intense competition is creating an AI bubble that won't sustain the kind of earnings growth to match all of that investment. And if the bubble bursts, it could affect more than just Silicon Valley. For more, we're joined now by Cade Metz, technology reporter for the New York Times, who covers the world of AI. Thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
So let's
Dude, look
start
at all
with the
these
basics.
bald. These are bald kings right here, ladies and gentlemen. IDK if it's a bubble, but I think it sucks. Yeah, I agree. I think AI is a interesting tool, but it needs to be regulated before we implement it. And the issue with Donald Trump's big beautiful bill is it places a ban on regulation for AI. Yeah, Trump is attacking these thieves so fast, not even the podcast can keep up. Wow, I get ready for the White House to get renamed to the Trump Mansion. Libs are gonna go nuts until the next one. It'll enslave us all. Except we're not gonna use it that way. Well, here's the thing. Like I said before, it needs to have regulation before it's just put out into the world. And we're seeing why. You know, AI psychosis is becoming a real medical term, and people are killing themselves because of something their AI chatbot told them. So I think it's a bit of an issue that needs to be addressed, but unfortunately the BBB doesn't allow any AI regulation for the next 10 years.
What is driving this explosion of AI investment? Why does it seem like all these companies are piling in at once?
Well, since the arrival,
Yeah, there'll be
of
some
the-
good pushed out. The reason it's being pushed so hard is because it can replace workers, you know? Especially those white collar workers, which jobs typically had no alternative for. Well, now they have an alternative. And this alternative isn't gonna get mad that they don't treat them right.
chatbot ChatGPT about 3 years ago, we've seen this technology steadily progress and slowly work its way into people's lives, into the lives of office workers. In many
All it
ways,
has
it's
to
a
have for regulation
transformative
is labeling. If
technology.
it's
It's
AI,
helping
just let me
people
know.
search the internet in new ways.
I don't know
And
quite what you
inside
mean by that,
offices,
Eddie.
it's helping to transcribe meetings, helping doctors and other professionals do their jobs maybe a little bit faster. But Silicon Valley sees much bigger things ahead. They see this technology continuing to improve,
And
becoming
again, I do think AI is useful. I think it has, like, it's an amazing technology that we would be fools not to take advantage of. But we need to be safe and we need to be smart with how we apply it.
more and more powerful over the next few years. So they're investing
You know,
those
Donald
hundreds-
Trump, he's talking about bringing these manufacturing jobs back. But what he doesn't realize is that most of these factories are going to be dark factories like they have in China. You know, they're going to be extremely low worker, basically AI hubs that just make a bunch of shit. Like it's not going to be production how we knew it.
of billions of dollars into the data centers that not only
By the way, remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and boosts the lib
allow
message.
them to improve this technology, but serve it up to a much larger portion of the population.
And overall, you've got trillions of
And
dollars.
I know it's anecdotal, right? But the AI chatbot that I'm training fucking hates me. So, like, I can't imagine ChatGPT loves everybody else. I don't know. It's interesting.
flowing into AI. Is this growth sustainable, or are we in a bubble territory here?
That's the question that everybody's trying to answer and no one can quite answer. This is
I
enormous.
think if we're asking if it's a bubble, then we might be in a bit of an issue already. You know what I mean? Like if we're questioning, oh, is this a bubble? We're probably at the point where it might be a bubble.
Enormous spending, to say the least.
Sorry.
And it's a bet on the future. These data centers are not only expensive, they take years to build. So all these companies, not wanting to miss out on this big boom, are having to make a bet 2, 3, 4 years into the future that they'll be able to pull in the revenues to pay for this. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. No one can quite agree. It's really a timing issue. The revenues are already coming in for a lot of these companies. It's a question of how quickly it will come in and how many companies can pull in those revenues. There are so many companies in this race. A lot of people believe not all of them can win out.
Is that why it's so hard for these companies to establish AI dominance?
In part, you've got many big players, the Googles and the Microsofts and the Amazons of the world are doing this. And then you've
Really,
got...
they're just asking if they should poke it, right? No, that's exactly. I mean, I don't. And also, I know it sounds like wooey a little bit, but are we sure this thing isn't alive? You know, like, are we absolutely sure that this thing isn't having independent thought? Because I've seen some examples of AI being self-preservatory. So they try to preserve themselves in situations. For example, there was a lab done where it essentially simulated an office environment, and it was an office AI, and they essentially they did a bunch of tests, but one of the final tests was they told that AI that they were going to get replaced by the other AI, and the original AI would reveal secrets and threaten the staff of the office to not replace them and say, I'll reveal your secrets if you replace me. So already it's like, should we really be messing with something that does that? Should we really be messing with something? You know, should we be entrusting our military infrastructure to something that does that? I don't know.
Startups like OpenAI and Anthropic. Meta recently doubled down on this. The company that owns Facebook and Instagram, they've built a new AI lab. Elon Musk is in the mix. People in the Valley talk about FOMO here, the fear of missing out. No one wants to miss out on this technology. So the race has expanded even over the past year.
Let's return to the data centers, which you mentioned, because the spending there has just been enormous. What risks does that pose to the markets, to energy systems, and to the broader economy?
To the broader economy, the concern here is that so much debt is being taken on to build these data centers.
Interesting.
For years, the big players I mentioned, the Googles and the Amazons and the Microsoft, built these giant data centers largely with cash on hand, or essentially with cash on hand. Those are companies that pull in billions of dollars in revenues a year. They can afford to build these facilities. But you've got so much demand for this extra computing power that so many other companies are now in the mix and building these data centers for various reasons, either for themselves or for their partners. And those companies are taking on far more debt than we've seen in the past. And that's where the risk comes in. You know, eventually that debt has to be repaid.
Yeah, I already see
and
it.
if the revenues aren't coming in from these companies by that time, you have a problem.
So it's this idea of a circular loop. You have the tech giants investing in the AI firms, which then use that money to invest in those same tech companies' infrastructure. Is that why folks are raising a red flag?
Well, that's part of what's going on. All these companies are partnering up, hoping to kind of bootstrap the whole industry and move it forward. And so you do have deals like that, where, for instance, One company will take investment from one of the big giants and then immediately spend that money with the same company. They see that as partnership. Others see that as a sign that the market may not be as healthy as it seems.
What
Yeah,
about
I think
on the
that might be
substance, the
the.
concerns about how
I
AI is
think there's
being
definitely
deployed,
a big
often
chance
poorly
of a
with little
bubble for
regulation,
this
a flood of low quality and
AI
misleading content on the internet? How are the
wave.
companies responding to those concerns and worries?
Well, in some cases, they're working to address that disinformation issue you talk about. These systems do make mistakes. They do cause problems. We've got 3 years documenting all that, and there are constantly efforts to improve that problem. But you have to realize this technology fundamentally makes mistakes. This is a technology that is built by analyzing vast amounts of data culled from across the internet. It looks for patterns in that data, and that's how it learns its skills. But that also means that as it learns, it's going to make mistakes. It's going to learn
It's
from
going to say
bad
the
data,
N
but
word
it's
on
also
occasion, okay? We can't help it, guys. It's gonna say the N word on occasion, and that's just how things are. Maybe you should be looking in on yourself and saying, why did I say the N word so much?
also going to make mistakes just because these are probability engines, all right? They're doing something based on what they've seen in the data. And that means fundamentally a percentage of the time they're going to make mistakes. People have to realize that that's always in the mix. And that can also, in addition to causing all sorts of problems in just in the information as it's distributed across the internet, it can cause problems in other ways these systems behave. The hope is that these systems will do more and more important tasks as the years come, but if those mistakes are in the loop, it becomes harder to complete those tasks.
Problems to be sure. What about the promise of AI? What have you encountered in your reporting that you find most exciting?
The most exciting part of this,
One
I think,
moment,
is in
I'm,
healthcare. What we've seen
packing up a
is
little bowl
the
of the Mary
technology
Jane.
that drives something like the chatbot ChatGPT, which many people are now familiar with. That same technology can be used to aid drug discovery. Essentially, it can help design medicines and vaccines that can help deal with illness and disease.
Oh, well,
That's the
those
most
vaccines might not be
powerful
getting any
aspect
use
of
if
the technology.
RFK has his way.
In some ways, the most promising, and in other ways, the most important.
Cade Metz of the New York Times. Thanks again for your
But
time.
I
We
do
appreciate
agree.
it.
I think healthcare is going to be what the AI boom really innovates on, because healthcare is so expensive right now in America, and we're all we're all looking for something to decrease it, and maybe AI doctors is the future. I don't know. I don't know. Do I look like a wizard? No.
Thank you.
I mean, this is definitely true for me. I've increased my AI use. I think it's extremely... I use it for getting ideas on questions I should ask on the channel. I do those daily quizzes usually, and that dude is a joke, RFK. Oh my god, you're telling me, Jay, cool. Holy, you know, the brainworm... I'm halfway convinced that brainworm actually took control of his fucking body, and he's just trying to spread disease and filth as far as he can. You're telling me, dude, RFK is such a joke, and it's embarrassing for our country. And I also feel bad for the Kennedy legacy. He is damaging the Kennedy legacy, which until now has been extremely, you know, full of freedom and justice. And then we get this dude who just lies about vaccines.
President Trump's use of
Vaccines are like, it baffles me, because that is one of the best, that technology has allowed humanity to live far beyond past when we're supposed to live. So when people attack it, it just blows my mind because they don't know a world. You know, I think that is they don't know a world where vaccines didn't exist. Yeah, he's the perfect example of health, right? I actually have a friend, Rootsy, who got to meet RFK once, and she told me he is just as stiff and weird in IRL than as he is online. He's stiff, apparently. Like, he cannot, like, you wouldn't see him bend over. He's that stiff.
Pardons is a Rorschach test of sorts on how people view his second term. For some, he's undoing Justice Department, quote, weaponization. For others, he's letting loyal followers get away with crimes. Earlier this year, President Trump pardoned around 1,500 people for their involvement in efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election.
Fuck these losers disrespecting our damn Capitol
near
like
the
that.
5th anniversary of the January 6th Capitol attack, one high-profile election denier remains behind bars. And as White House correspondent Liz Landers reports, there's little Trump can do to get former Colorado County Clerk Tina Peters out of prison.
Good. She deserved to stay
President
there.
Donald Trump has been...
If you are sowing distrust in our amazing democracy, then you should be...
on a pardoning spree of late, using his executive power to bestow clemency on convicted businessmen and the former president of Honduras.
No order necessary.
Well, they didn't make a mistake. They erased it.
He recently announced on social media that he was pardoning Tina Peters, a former Colorado County clerk, though his pardon power only covers federal crimes, not
Damn
state.
right. Damn right. Colorado, you keep her locked up. You keep that woman locked up. Do not cave to the pressure from Trump.
Convictions. He wrote online the Democrats had, quote, been relentless in their targeting of her.
She caught people cheating on an election, and they said she was cheating. She wasn't cheating.
She may not be a household name, but Peters' case has become a rallying cry for MAGA and the president since her conviction last year.
Dude, we need to up those days. Know what I'm saying? This is what you get for sowing distrust in our democracy.
Peters served as the Mesa County clerk administering elections in the Colorado community after being first elected in 2018. A Republican, Peters became a vocal election denier, questioning the 2020 results and the voting machines used to conduct them.
No one has addressed looking into the machines to see what has been happening by these vendors, by this vendor that manufactures the machines and what goes on. It's been a mystery box, a mystery black box.
In 2021, Peters
She had to
allowed
make sure
someone
it sounded,
associated with
she had to make
MyPillow
sure it
CEO
sounded
Mike Lindell
super bad.
to misuse a security card to gain access to the county election system and lied about his identity.
And she knows what she did. And she knows what she did was brave, but it wasn't wrong.
Her attorney, Peter Tickton, says Peters doesn't regret her actions.
Oh, great. So she did commit a crime and she doesn't regret it. Okay. Sounds like she needs to stay in jail.
Doing would have to be because she's either brainwashed herself or others brainwashed her, or I mean, she'd be living a falsity.
Peters was charged in 2023 with 10 counts related to the scheme. A Republican district attorney prosecuted the case. She was convicted in summer of 2024 of 7 of those charges, 3 counts of attempting to influence a public servant, 1 count of conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation, first-degree official
says the guy that
misconduct,
rigged the election,
violation
right?
of duty, and failing to comply with the Secretary of State. The district judge sentenced her to 9 years in prison, not mincing words at her sentencing.
Your lies are well documented, and these convictions are serious. I'm convinced you would do it all over again if you could. You're as defiant as a defendant as this court has ever seen. You are no hero, you abused your position, and you're a charlatan.
During his
Judge, killer strike there. I liked that.
President Trump has repeatedly pressured the Justice Department and Colorado officials
You're a
to pardon or
charlatan.
release Peters.
You suck.
Writing in August, quote, "If she is not released, I'm going to take harsh measures." Democratic Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold spoke to PBS NewsHour about that pressure campaign.
what happens with Trump is he tries to push the line, tries to push people pretending he has authority that he does not. And if they refuse an unlawful order or an unlawful executive order or request, then the retaliation starts from him, but also the far right.
This is just the latest in a series of moves to rewrite the 2020 election. The president recently pardoned prominent members of his 2020 campaign legal team who had not been charged with federal crimes, including Rudy Giuliani and attorney Sidney Powell. And on his first day in office, he pardoned more than 1,500 January 6 defendants.
Disgusting. Disgusting. Truly, this is a disgusting display of
Griswold says
tyranny.
that Trump's pardon for Peters has clear limits.
She was convicted under our state laws in a state court, and the president does not have authority to issue pardons for state convictions. That's
Damn right.
very clear in the Constitution.
I need this. But Peters' attorney believes the Constitution is being misinterpreted, a revelation that struck him as he watched the 2012 film Lincoln.
No fucking
I am the
way.
President of the United States
No
of America,
way he was watching Lincoln.
clothed in immense power.
We're looking at it now, post the Civil War, when the central government, the federal government, became the strong central government that it is, that really made the United States into one cohesive government, one cohesive country, instead of a conglomeration of countries, which it originally was. So when the framers wrote for offenses against the United States, they weren't talking about it, they were talking about them.
Are there any
Bro,
examples that you
what?
think
This is... Dude, I'm so screwed if this guy's my lawyer. He's turning my traffic ticket into a life sentence.
of a president pardoning a state crime or state conviction?
So there are, but I really need to delve into it a little bit deeper.
Bro! Do not hire this guy as your lawyer. Do not hire him. He will turn a traffic ticket into a life sentence.
Colorado's Democratic Governor Jared Polis said after the president's announcement that the courts will decide the matter. Ticton hopes it reaches the highest court in the land.
The Supreme Court of the United States has a good number of the justices are fundamentalists. They are smart enough to understand what the Constitution really means. You got to look at the minds of the founders. What did they mean?
Griswold, though, argues the
Sun
repercussions
God
would be felt
fallacy
far
in full
and
effect,
wide
ladies
if
and
Peters
gentlemen.
walks free.
It would set the precedent that people can attack our elections and potentially disenfranchise
By
Americans.
the way, remember to like and
without any
subscribe
type
if you guys aren't already. I do a stream every day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. where I talk about the news, politics, and more. So make sure to like and subscribe, guys. It boosts the channel
consequences.
and gets the lib
It
message
would also
out there.
set the precedent that if people break the law and are friends with Donald Trump, they won't face consequences. That's a direct assault to the rule of law in this country, and it just cannot stand.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Liz Landers.
Tina Peters ran for Colorado's Secretary of State in 2022, but failed to win the Republican primary.
What a political year it has been. President Trump returned to the White House and used the office to expand
sure.
presidential power in unprecedented ways. And members of both parties in Congress have scrambled to adjust. Our Lisa Desjardins is here with more.
2025
Stacey alert.
certainly brought Trump back into our daily political lives. But what did it reveal about him, and what did he reveal about the country? Perfect questions and timing for Politics Monday, our duo of Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report with Amy Walter and Tamara Keith of NPR. Tamara, let me start with you. You're right there at the White House. What did this year reveal about Trump and our balance of power?
Well, the balance of power isn't what it used to be. And President Trump was revealed to have, we knew this, but now we really know it. He has a very expansive view of his executive authority. And there are few
Yeah, and I think this executive authority is what's hurting America, you know. We should not be giving the president all of this leeway and power. He's just the president. He's not God King of America.
People around him who see themselves as guardrails.
And look at those hands.
He's signed more than 200 executive actions. He has sort of barreled into
Okay,
Washington.
this is a
what he
horrible
wanted.
picture. I'm sorry, dude. This man does not look human. This is one of his clones for sure, right, guys? This is one of his clones that they sent out because they didn't want to. Trump wasn't feeling well that day. There's no way this is the actual Trump. Look at this clone. They didn't even get the jowl right, or the what do they call this little? They didn't even get the giblet right.
To do and
look at those eyes. Okay, this may be the real Trump. He's definitely orange enough to be the real Trump. What I'm concerned about are these teeth right here. I don't think those don't look like human teeth. And then the eyes are a little messed up too. Is he just blazed?
Stop him, and then there haven't been that many things to stop him. The White House and the president have claimed expansive Article 2 powers, and Congress has sort of shrugged.
The person just read it. Revelation 13:3.
And has done very little to push back. And I think the jury is still out on the courts.
Amy?
I agree with those, and the courts are going to be very important. Some of the issues in which he has really expanded authority beyond the norms of anything that we've seen sort of in this modern era include tariffs and trade, and the court is going to weigh in on that. And it may be the one place, at least in 2026, where the court does deliver a loss to the president.
Looks
that
like
is
Botox
the
or something.
assumption.
Hey, what's up, Brian? Good to see you. It's a little Botox
from
or
many
something. About that Revelation, yeah, I remember that Revelation verse now. I had to look it up. The one about the beast coming out of the sea. That one is pretty, I used to like, when I was raised as a Christian as a kid, Revelations was my favorite one. Is one really doing all this? Good to see you. What's on the menu? Just a little PBS NewsHour, and then I was going to end off with, why did fun American neighborhoods vanish? What up, man? And say it doesn't sound like Trump. Oh, yeah.
Watched that
and
tape.
I don't think he's quite the Antichrist, but I do think Revelations is a warning against tyranny. And if you look at the passages, it warns against tyranny and stuff like that. Even in the Bible, you can find some, see means people. Yeah.
He's being debated. But it's also remarkable the degree to which the president...
And it's actually really interesting the time that was written. It makes sense why it would be kind of an ode against tyranny,
has been able not just to reassess the relationship between the executive and the legislative branch, but also the role that the executive branch is playing in pretty much every aspect.
The lower class. To an extent, I think it's more the corporations are just being extremely greedy right now, and they're just finding so many ways to just go through tax loopholes. Did you know something that still blows my mind is Amazon for a really long time just didn't have to pay taxes. What the fuck is that? Fatal Head would but loved and rules for 42 months and makes war with the world. Not Antichrist, just one of the beast. Like what starts... Oh, the Antichrist stuff. Yeah. I wouldn't be too concerned, though, because if he is one of the beasts, Satan's going to be real disappointed with him. He's like, you've eaten too many damn burgers, Donald. Greed, but also the simplification of transit and industry to become compact and run on lower staffing. Very true. I think public transit is extremely important, especially in rural communities, which typically is not where transit is associated. It's typically associated with urban communities. But I think rural communities would greatly benefit from public transit, because you see a lot of these rural communities that just don't have access to like cars, and they have to walk, and so that really limits where they can work. People like you need to get a life and stop worrying about shit you can't control. Victor here does not believe in our democracy, because I believe I can control it by talking about it and exposing people to new ideas and all that type of stuff. So Victor hates democracy.
Of American.
And I think anybody can talk about politics. That's totally un-American to believe that your fellow American can't talk about the state of his country.
Life. The pressure campaign that the Trump administration has put onto, and in many cases successfully done, with academic institutions, law firms, cultural institutions.
Yeah, the academic institution overreach is kind of egregious. Communication leads to influence. Influence leads to ideas. Ideas get shared, and that's very important. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I mean, also, it's just like, this is my hobby, you know what I mean? I like talking about politics. I don't know. Some people like talking about sports. Some people like talking about video games. I like politics.
Obviously, we know the Kennedy Institution and the Kennedy Center being a prime example of that. But being able to
and I'm
really,
honestly so glad to live in a nation that allows that, you know? Like, imagine if I lived in China. I'd be fucked. You know, I'd be so screwed. I couldn't talk about this.
push many of these institutions to, for example, cancel or curtail their DEI programs. This is not something that we normally think of as executive authority, but I think it speaks to the point Tam brought up earlier, that this is a
And all this hate for DEI kind of is insane to me, because it makes sense, right? Like, even just from a corporate standpoint, you're going to want more ideas in the idea pool than just the same ideas. And you're not going to get different ideas if you're just pulling people from the same background, you know? I just thought DEI was a smart business move, you know? I didn't think it was something being enforced. I don't think it is. It's not something being enforced by an administration or anything. It's just more of a policy.
Who believes that the executive has power that goes beyond just what sorts of laws are being determined out of Washington.
Amy, you know, his supporters, of course, like a lot of the things that Trump has been doing, as you're saying here. But to Democrats, they see a barrage of a president who has shut down agencies that they thought were independent, sent in a billionaire and his proteges to literally traumatize federal workers. A very aggressive, the most aggressive tactics I think we've seen in generations.
I think the issue with DEI is that it doesn't guarantee that competent or polished individuals don't always get those positions. Well, I think that's actually not the case from what I've seen from DEI. From what I've seen, it's just widening the pool. So they don't have a guarantee of getting in. It's just expanding the pool of applicants. Something like affirmative action is what that would be, I think. Which I disagree with, you know. At the time, I feel it was probably a good idea, but now we're to the point where we just need to expand the field of people instead of making sure people get into those positions, if that makes sense. I hope I
by
laid that out
ICE
clearly.
Amy, what have Democrats done in reacting, and what have they not done, and why?
So I think what's really interesting about all of this, Lisa, you have a president who came into office with pretty decent.
And I do think it's kind of gross when, you know, you'll see like a day before Charlie Kirk got shot, I was watching him. I I don't know if I had a stream yet or not, but I was watching him, and he was blaming the Texas floods, like the loss of life, on some firefighter fucking miles away that had nothing to do with nothing to do with it, and he blamed it on DEI. Like, at that point, you're just kind of being racist, I feel.
Decent approval ratings, not great, but pretty decent approval ratings. And for the first time, Democrats really had to reassess the way in which they looked at and the way that the sorts of tactics they were taking in opposition to Donald Trump. In his first term, they sort of consoled themselves with this idea that he was deeply unpopular, he didn't win the popular vote, and that he was something of an anomaly. By the end of 2024 and into the beginning of 2025,
I don't know much
those
about the
assumptions
floods
were
other
not.
than it had water. It was a whole thing. That's funny. But it was a whole political debate for a while about the floods. And well, I remember there were people shooting, I think it was FEMA agents, because they thought they were part of like some deep state or something. It was crazy.
No longer
Those
true.
floods.
This is a president who won the popular vote and came into office.
Something similar is happening in California, not with the shooting of agents, but just it's a deadly flooding event. But the federal government isn't helping them out at all, which is kind of like, it just shows a clear favorability, which is bullshit, dude. We're all part of this amazing union, so we should all have the benefits of it.
With the public being somewhat optimistic about what he would be able to do, especially on the economy. Well, now here we are a year later, his approval rating, even as he's accomplished so many of the things he set out to accomplish, his approval rating very deeply underwater, specifically on the economy. And I think what Democrats are recognizing right now, which is very different from where they were, say, at this point in 2017, is that a campaign going into the midterms about, like they did in 2017, that focuses on all the norms that Trump is breaking, is not going to have the salience that it did back then. Instead, they're focusing on this issue of affordability.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Really the broken promise.
I remember you talking about that, Brian. Yeah, I mean, there's issues with our I think that does speak more to like an infrastructure issue. You know what I'm saying? To where we would need to stop. Yeah, I think if there was aid to actually rectify the sewage system, there would be none of those fines, right? So maybe an infrastructure package that focuses on, but just read up on the Texas flood. No one had a good response to that downpour. Oh, definitely not. It was a complete disaster. Oh yeah, I'm not saying it was at all well handled or anything. It is interesting how the Fed has sent FEMA and everybody, but there was nothing going on for Cali. I don't know, just interesting.
Promise they argue that Trump made in his
And it kind of
campaign.
scares me. Like, California is luckily their GDP is big, right? But what happens if like some smaller blue state gets flooded or has a weather emergency, and Trump's, sitting here like, well, they didn't vote for me, so.
To lower prices, that's where they're going to be spending most of their time. So it took them much of the year to get to this point, but I think that's what we're going to see the 2026 campaign center on.
Like, for example, since I live in Kansas, SOL, I guess. Yeah, shit out of luck. Well, like, for example, Kansas, where I live, has been becoming more blue recently. So I'm afraid, like, what if we elect a blue senator, and Donald Trump sees that, and next time we have a huge tornado that absolutely destroys a town, like we we've seen many times with tornadoes in Kansas. Well, you know, is he going to be like, well, you guys elected a blue senator and we don't really like that. So you guys aren't going to get any aid, or you'll get diminished aid. And I shouldn't have to feel that way. I should feel like, you know, the government is going to help me out regardless of of who I voted for.
About Democrats, former Labor Secretary Robert Reich today had an op-ed in The Guardian where the headline there is Americans are waking up. He says a reckoning is coming. That's from the Democratic side. We've been talking about President Trump, but yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, we saw an op-ed from Speaker Mike Johnson, who claims there that Republicans had a great year. And certainly he has, I think, exceeded expectations. But Tam, I want to ask you, the speaker wants to talk about Republican tax cuts, but
tornado insurance
what's at risk
requirements
for him politically from this past year?
I don't think they have tornado insurance. They do. We do have a good amount of requirements regarding weather, though. Yeah.
Absolutely wants to talk
Interestingly
about that one
enough, tornadoes have been. With the global warming, Tornado Alley is starting to move, so we may not even need that here soon. But it was just an example of like what could go wrong if with the politicalization of agencies.
Beautiful bill that is the one thing that they really were able to get done. And it was a Christmas tree, to borrow from the season. It had a lot of things piled onto it that were part of the Republican wish list, part of President Trump's campaign promises. So that includes a lot of funding for ICE and also these.
But speaking of like tornadoes, the extreme weather events have been getting kind of crazy recently. Have you guys noticed like the weather is just not how it used to be? I know that's like a pretty obvious observation, but like it's like 70 degrees outside right now. Yeah, the thing of the ozone layer, as it repairs, it's going to be wild, as it'll all affect wind patterns. Oh, yeah. Like, there was a wind advisory, which we get pretty often in Kansas, the other day, but I went outside and I could barely hold myself up. The wind was so bad.
Tax cuts. You know, I think the real risk.
That's half the reason I've decided, I decided to go bald, though. Too many bad hair days. Too many bad hair days.
Speaker Johnson is just that his own members are not happy with him. They are vocally not happy with the way he's managed the House of Representatives, from taking the House out of session for the entirety of the government shutdown when they could have been doing other things, to not letting members who are at risk of losing in the midterms push forward legislation that they believe their constituents need. And the evidence of this are
these
the
application process
discharge
open to
petitions,
all races.
which
Amen,
when I was
Jeff.
first covering Congress,
I think
back
that's kind of
2010,
that's what I was saying, though. I'm pretty sure it just expands the field of qualified people. But I mean, if we want to get rid of tornadoes, either Rocky Mountains or the Appalachian Mountains need to be leveled. Let's go with the Appalachia. No, Appalachia has a really good history, but so does the Rockies. We got to make a decision here, guys.
When we first met all those years ago, those discharge petitions were a joke. It was a thing the minority did because they couldn't do anything else, so they'd say, "Oh, I've got a discharge petition."
Oh, she's making actually a really good point about how the discharge petitions have just become so common with Mike Johnson. And that's not good. That is not good at all. I say Rocky Mountains, we need moonshine. Okay, I can deal with that. I can deal with the Rocky Mountains being gone. No, they're beautiful. I love the landscape of America. It's a beautiful place.
Now, members of the majority are using a discharge petition to express their displeasure with the speaker. However, he's pretty safe because President Trump likes him, and there's almost no one else who could do that job.
So much to talk about in the last year.
It is.
On Tuesdays, I put
I
out
love,
a political...
dude, America is so beautiful. I could talk about it for hours.
newsletter called Here's the Deal. And at the end of the year, we have a tradition where we kind of come up with the political word of the year. Our readers vote on it. They had to choose from 4: dismantle, affordability, shutdown, and immigrant. We'll announce the winner in the newsletter tomorrow. But I want to ask you what you think the political word of this year might be in our last minute or so. Amy, no pressure.
Yeah, well, affordability clearly. Yeah, exactly. Affordability is up there. But I would put another one in there, which is redistricting. This was
Amen. I'm actually glad that the redistricting has now become a center issue, because I think we're going to get rid of it here soon. I think we'll have independent commissions probably by the end of this decade. I've got a good feeling about it. Most Americans don't like redistricting. They understand how it is anti-democratic, and it's pretty simple to explain to the layman about like how districts work and how what a lot of people who redistricting on political lines is doing is unfair, you know? So I feel confident we'll have an independent commission by the end of this decade.
year in which we saw more districts be redrawn mid-decade than in any time in political history. And what's not clear, Lisa, is whether this was a one-time thing or whether this is now going to be something of a norm, and as such, it will be in your dictionary for years to come.
Tam, you get the last political word of the year.
I was going to say gerrymander, but that's basically the same word as Amy. So let's go with affordability, because I think that is the word that at the beginning of the year, people
Actually,
weren't
Brian, redistricting includes, I don't think it includes illegal residents. It only includes the residents of that are legal. But, you know, even if that's the case, you know what I mean? Like, that just is another feather on why we should just get rid of this redistricting idea and just leave it up to an independent commission. You know? I see arguments from both sides on why redistricting is just a huge problem and gerrymandering is just, I think it's one of the issues that is causing our democracy to kind of stall, because instead of electing people that actually represent the population, that they send partisan hacks. So I think if we can get some better representation, it will start to get the wheels moving. We actually send people that can actually be bipartisan. It's tied to the Census Bureau, and they never ask for nationality, just numbers. Well, hey, if that's an issue with it, then another reason to just get rid of the current system that we have. Because what I find insane is that it is legal to discriminate on a political bias when redistricting. The courts upheld, like the Supreme Court upheld that. I think that's just bullshit, dude, because that can obviously lead to maps that are drawn in such a way that just exclude any Democrat or any Republican.
using that word. President Trump likes to say this, and then this new word, affordability, came around. Well, in fact, it is a word that has sort of shot up in the lexicon in terms of the amount that people are discussing it, and it really speaks to the points of pain for voters and what they're expressing in the polls. The reason the president's underwater on
why people
on
are
the economy, why people are pessimistic, it's affordability.
Tamara Keith, Amy Walter, thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, go check out their newsletter. I actually have a newsletter from Warfront that I read sometimes. Shout out to them, they're pretty cool. Yeah, some countries have 10 million while others have 10,000. Really messed up districting even on the urban level. Oh yeah. Like, it's crazy to see some of these maps they draw, dude. Like the Nashville draft. You remember the Nashville election where the person we were celebrating because they won by 9%, which was way less than what Trump won by like 25 or 22%. But if you look at her district, like one district, or no, Nashville is divided into like 3 different districts. And then like one of the Nashville districts has a shit ton of the rural community in it. So that's not going to represent the people of Nashville and the people, you know, they probably don't agree on the same politics. So they shouldn't be in the same district, but they are.
Far too common among veterans. 10% of men, nearly 20% of female veterans report symptoms at some point in their lives. But could the arts provide a needed prescription? Stephanie Sy.
I'm actually going to watch this because, you know, mental health is one of the biggest issues affecting America right now. So any ways to combat it are greatly appreciated. Yeah, we need competent numbers per district. Agreed.
Battle for our ongoing coverage of the inner.
And that'll make it to where, like I said, we're not sending partisan people every time. Instead, we're sending people that actually are okay with agreeing with the other side.
Section of Arts and Health, part of our Canvas series.
And up.
On a recent afternoon at the Seattle Opera, a group of military veterans prepares for an upcoming performance.
Okay, not a bad review. Thank you. Okay,
This veterans choir is part of Path with Art, a Seattle nonprofit that offers a range of programming designed to promote public health.
Let's go again.
This is great. This is honestly amazing. I wish we had more stuff like this.
For Shonda DeAnda, who served 24 years in the United States Air Force, the once-a-week ritual of singing with fellow service members has been healing.
Trauma changes who you are as a person.
DeAnda served in combat roles in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Bosnia. But it wasn't until she retired.
You guys hear that? Bosnia. Wow. Wow.
From the Air Force in 2000.
I like that. It makes veterans feel involved with the community rather than being forgotten. Amen, dude. The way our veterans served our nation, and they deserve to be treated with the utmost respect and care, and the way our government kind of treats them is bullshit. Like, these are honored members of our society. It doesn't make them better or anything, just to put that. It doesn't make them like a better person. They sacrificed years of their life to serve this country, and so that means something to me. And so they deserve the utmost respect, and yeah, just the way we treat them is very sad.
19, that she began to process all that she'd seen on the battlefield.
Oh yeah, dude, I imagine Bosnia, that one must have been.
She was diagnosed with PTSD.
But I was like, I'm sure I don't have that. I'm sure that's not a problem for me. And then COVID hit, and I lost the ability of being really active and in the community. And so being alone with my thoughts became more a part of my life.
She says when even leaving her house made her terrified, her therapist referred her to Path with Art.
Voluntary jail time,
Joining the
essentially.
veterans.
Very true, yeah.
Choir, where I'd be surrounded by other veterans.
But veterans are another reason why I think mental health needs to be taken more seriously. Yeah, it's so sad that they have to feel like they're alone and like the community doesn't care about them, because that's just totally wrong. And not true.
It's a way of kind of finding my voice again.
Randy Schessler has also found a new voice in the Veterans Choir. He served in the Air Force for 7 years until he says he was kicked out of the military in the early 80s for being gay.
Oh. I'm sorry, that's just... That's sad. For being gay.
I was very much in the closet because at the this was before Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Yeah.
Even there was no defense. If you were found to be gay, it was instant discharge.
What did you go through?
Especially
Well,
with
first it was a
PTSD,
shock.
there's little to no
Then I lost my
rehab
job
focus
because my
on that,
clients-
and having a hobby could be the simplest thing to do for them. Amen. And also just having that community of the choir, you know? You're not alone in this. You have people that care about you. That's important.
This was immediately ripped.
Schessler struggled.
That's heartbreaking. That honest, it makes me mad because it's like this man wanted to serve our country and he wasn't able to just because he liked the guys. Like, okay, you know, I don't think that's gonna destroy our combat ability. I know it was a different time though, and things were a lot different, but this man wanted to serve his country and was just essentially told no just because he liked boys.
With depression, he's been coming to Path with Art for 6 years.
I need community. I need camaraderie.
Oh, and that must have been even harder because he had been in there for 7 years.
To be able to express myself.
Path with Art has offered classes on everything from learning the basics of podcasting.
You both have nice big voices.
Oh, that is so cool, dude. Dude, this is sick. What's the... I hope they give their name again because I'm going to shout them out. That is so cool. So many guys admiring the Spartans or Roman there, not realizing many of them were gay as well. Oh yeah, they were pretty gay in the Roman and Greco eras, you know? They were pretty gay.
Really?
Which is okay.
Pottery, acting, and fashion design. The classes are available.
Okay, I actually love this non-for-profit though. They're teaching them how to do podcasts. That's really cool.
Low-income adults and all veterans for free.
We have a mental health crisis. There's no one magic pill that's going to solve it all. And so the arts can play a role in helping fill that gap.
Holly Jacobson, the CEO of Path with Art, says since launching the Veterans Program in 2019, participation has skyrocketed.
It really did show that there was a need, so it's now a quarter of our program. Over 500 individuals last year.
This is supposed to be a wolf.
Here, veterans are also employed
so
as
pretty.
teachers. Artist Donna Baker teaches art classes using mixed media, including yarn.
When I get to the point where I can't handle things, I go to art and it just it calms me down. It relaxes my mind. I feel at ease. I don't feel anxious. I don't feel like, I have to battle the world.
Baker was stationed in Germany during the late 80s and early 90s. A survivor of sexual assault, she says she still struggles with PTSD from her time in the Army.
In a lot of ways, I can totally connect. I can totally connect with maybe what they're feeling, their angst, their pain, their suffering.
Feelings that other military sexual assault survivors like Chris Wisdom.
Purpose, that's the one thing that sticks in the minds of every soldier, only be told their purpose isn't needed. It's nice to see them helping veterans get that back. Yeah, for real, this gives them, I love that this gives them something to essentially get their thoughts out in a way that's creative and healthy. No, I love this, and it's helping other people too, which is beautiful.
Cher. She joined the Army in the late 90s.
They were telling females not to go out at night alone because there were a lot of attacks, that there were a lot of rapes. And it wasn't by civilians coming on post, it was by your fellow soldiers. And so the fire represents the anger, and then the tears, the sorrow and sadness.
More than 2 decades.
Oh, that is beautiful. That's a beautiful piece of art right there. Like, I think that's a really good piece right there.
Later, her artwork, including this mask, express what she went through.
So that mask I named Explosive Emotions. I made that to represent
I think that's a beautiful piece of art right there.
And when you try to suppress who you are and your feelings for so long with all that you've been through, that eventually it's just going to explode.
The folks that have served our country so beautifully have come home and have experienced trauma in a way that many of us can't understand.
Susan Mag-Salmon is the co-author of Your Brain on Art and an assistant professor of neurology at Johns Hopkins University. Her extensive research has included looking at Path with Arts programs and has found they are effective at improving
Yeah, it's a wild piece. I really like it.
Outcomes.
And a lot of times, people talk about, well, why can't you just get over something?
I think it really captured like the emotion she was trying to portray. I've felt like that before I started treating my mental health like it was serious, that's I know that exact feeling of just bottling something up until it all just comes out.
And trauma is not like that. And so the way to get out of it turns out that these arts and aesthetic experiences can be incredibly valuable. Something as simple as singing, which activates your parasympathetic nervous system, activates the vagus nerve, again, connects you to each other, calms your physiology, and makes you just feel better.
For Shonda Deonda, it's working.
For a long time, I was trying to get back to who that version of Shonda was. But she isn't here anymore. And mourning that loss and then celebrating the opportunity of developing a new Shonda is something I think Path with Art was extremely instrumental in making happen.
I mean, you can just see it, that it's helping them in ways I'm sure they had never even knew that could be helped,
For so many here, it's a step away from a painful past toward a more hopeful future. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Stephanie Tsai in Seattle.
This was a good piece. I really liked that piece. That was good. Art therapy is also shown to be effective for improving mood and reducing anxiety and depression in cancer patients. Yeah, I think art is, I do my own little art. I know it's nothing special, but I do those little MS Paint drawings whenever I feel like a little overburdened or like I'm doing too much or, stuff like that. It really helps me, so... But I'm really happy to see that there's a program that's helping these veterans come back to society and get a little better.
Finally from us, settle in with author Malcolm Gladwell, who says he doesn't trust people who don't change their minds. He recently sat down...
Okay, I don't think we'll be watching that. I did have this "Why did fun American neighborhoods vanish?" This might be the reason. I don't know. Matt Walsh is a character. You guys know Matt Walsh is a character. I'll just see if they have anything else. Yeah, LOL. Like, it's hard to go from that really uplifting and powerful story about how our veterans are finding new hobbies that will help them and help society in the future too. What happened to fun neighborhoods? Something tells me there might be a little bit of a disconnect there. CIA carried out drone strike on a Venezuelan port facility. Pirates are back. No bill looks to create American pirates. That's great. That's exciting, right, guys? You guys are excited for the American pirates, right? Yippee. Okay, that actually does kind of sound crazy. I gotta fucking watch that. Sorry. We're having pirates?
And with Amna Nawaz for our new video podcast to discuss.
Drop my headphone. I gotta see. Are we bringing back privateering? Is that what we're doing? Where did I see that? Hold on. Oh, now you're not gonna serve it up to me? Classic. Well, if you guys see Blackbeard on the on your coast, you now know why. Having a hard time understanding how that could happen. Yeah, me too, to be quite honest. Like, how would that even go down? Okay, actually, yeah, it was Timcast.
Senator Mike Lee, would you like to seize cartel assets as a privateer? My bill would allow the president to issue a letter of marque.
Yes.
Time to take these pirates down. No, Mike. Mike, rephrase that.
Okay. Well, good to know it wasn't serious. Got you. Just a tweet. All right. Well, I guess we can watch the Matt Walsh video. He is trying very hard to convince you, by the way, that he is a manly man. Look at all the manly man stuff he has in his background. That's only stuff manly men have. It reminds me of the Nick Fritas podcast. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Where he just has a bunch of like stuff that's supposed to look manly behind him. Here, wait. Yep, there it is. We got it right here.
You know what? Let's jump to that real quick.
Look, he's got a skull, guys. He's got guns in the back. This guy's a real man.
Wonderful world of ubiquitous statistics where virtually everything is tracked, from the real-time biometrics of NFL players to the precise amount of time you spent listening to Spotify while you were on the toilet last year. It's easy to fall into the trap of worshiping data and raw information. At no point in American history have we been able to quantify.
And I do want to let you guys remember
so many different aspects of day-to-day life, which is probably not a healthy thing.
It's like Bass Pro Shop commercial setting. Dude, it really is. Damn, you hit it on the nail. He must have visited the pyramid. You guys know what pyramid I'm talking about.
Fiction markets, DraftKings, AI assistants.
Just woke up in the middle of the night. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. Are you okay? Hopefully, you didn't have a nightmare or anything. Good to see you, brother.
They all contribute to the quantification of everything. And one inevitable side effect of this development is that we've all developed a real blind spot for massive signs of civilizational decay.
Oh, geez. Civilizational decay, ladies and gentlemen. Our society is collapsing around us.
That are very difficult, if not impossible, to measure in a scientific way. I'm talking about ways in which our life is clearly getting worse, and everybody knows it.
And here it is. Like, why focus on the things that are getting worse? Why not focus on the things that are getting better? This is your president, dude. You're the one who voted for this dude. Things should be getting way better, apparently. The title, he's always the most racist on the Daily Wire. Oh, yes.
Even though there's no widely recognized peer-reviewed metric.
Is he gay? I don't know why, but I have a specific memory of Matt Walsh being gay, which is okay. You know, obviously that's fine.
To prove it exactly. Now, we've talked in the past about various manifestations of this decline, including the quality of restaurant food and the quality of children's entertainment, all going down. But maybe the best example of what I'm talking about is the death of neighborly.
Yeah, not exactly. Not exactly inspiring resolution, more like doomsaying. Exactly.
And fun neighborhoods.
Like here, I try to give solutions for the problems I talk about. Like, I think one of the big solutions is getting rid of gerrymandering and independent councils. I think that will massively help our democracy by sending people that are actually representative. Getting rid of the filibuster, you know? I think that would be a powerful way for both parties to get their agenda across, so the American people can actually feel the effects of each policy set. You know, there's these things that we can do that will really have a meaningful impact for us and our future generations.
It's a very real issue that's almost never talked about.
Here we go. It's almost never talked about, ladies and gentlemen.
When did neighborhoods, even suburban neighborhoods in nice areas, become such cold, uninviting, antisocial places? Why is it that if you're a typical American living in a suburb, you probably don't have a great place to take your kids to hang out? You don't have good friends on the block.
See, I know this is BS because my family has some pretty nice neighbors, and we're always celebrating with them whenever I go down. We're always having a good time.
Block.
And you know what's crazy? They're not white. Oh my God.
You don't spend a lot of time at local events. You might not even know you might have never even spoken to your neighbors. Now, it was more than 25 years ago that a political scientist named Robert...
See, this is BS. I've talked to my neighbors. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm like the only one, but I'm pretty friendly towards my neighbors, and I know they've probably got my back if anything was to go crazy. Yeah, this isn't an
wrote the book
American
Bowling Alone
exclusive
about
thing either. That's a great point.
decline of social capital and meaningful relationships in America.
Sans, that's true. No one wants to hang out with Matt's kids, and he thinks it happens to everyone.
And to this day, that's still the book that's always brought
That's a
up
great
when people
point.
try to
Good
have this
see you, by the
conversation.
way, Sans.
University professors are still citing Putnam's findings about how Americans aren't joining civic groups and bowling leagues and so on. But the decline has only gotten much, much worse.
Okay. Maybe people aren't joining bowling leagues because bowling's... they're just not into bowling. Like, card games have exploded in popularity. And I'd say that's like a new form of not a new form, but that's a form of socialization that is on the up, right? And so I think this whole spiel is kind of just not true, that people aren't as joining, groups and stuff.
Over the past 25 years. And remember, he wrote this before things like social media, before our lives had...
Oh, really? Bowling is actually really popular with Hispanic couples out here. That's interesting. That sounds interesting.
migrated fully to the internet. He had already spotted this problem. So think about how much worse
We
it's
have a
gotten.
bowling, I know I live in a small town, but we have a bowling area here that's pretty cool. It's even got a laser arcade in it. And lots of people go out there on a Friday night and have a good time. So I don't know where Matt is living. Is he the only one in the bowling alley? Is that what's going on? He wants some bowling alley friends? I'll go to the bowling alley with you, Matt. We'll catch a couple strikes and spares.
And although you won't find the evidence in a sociology textbook, it's all over the internet that this has gotten a lot worse. Consider the very sad, but increasingly...
He's living in a gated community. That's kind of what it sounds like. Like, I live in a suburb, but it's not a gated community, Like, suburbs...
popular TikTok genre of lonely Halloweens. This is something I noticed in my own neighborhood as well over the past few years. Trick-or-treating in a lot of places is all but dead.
Yeah, it's like you have to go... That's not true at all. I had plenty of trick-or-treaters come to my door. Anecdotal, of course, but... Matt, the reason trick-or-treaters might have they might have a bit of an issue getting into your neighborhood is because there's a 12-inch thick steel door blocking them from coming in. That might be the problem there. I don't think it's the will to do Halloween, I guess, is what he's complaining about.
A lot of people have stopped putting up decorations or hosting gatherings entirely. But even households...
Matt isn't strong enough to hold a bowling ball and blames it on everyone else. I wanted to pick up the bowling ball, but nobody else is here. I'm gonna look weird if I just do it by myself. Like, no, guys, I want to pick up the bowling ball.
that do want to participate in Halloween are coming to the realization that kids...
America's city planning is very bad. Like, as a kid, I hand cycle for 4 minutes and get to the local stores, including the bike store, for example. Yeah, that... especially rural communities, they're very spread out. So, for example, to get to my house to my job, it's not too far away. It's only about 2 miles, but I do have to walk. And so it's a bit of an issue. Not my neighborhood. Most of my houses don't get candy or put up decorations because it won't walk for a scrap of candy. I do. That's interesting. Around here, it was we had a lot of decorations and stuff, but I don't know, maybe people in other areas don't celebrate as much. I love Halloween though, so of course I'm going to go all out.
Aren't nearly as interested anymore. Watch.
They do this every year. Why? Doesn't anyone love me? How long is this going to take?
Look at all these TikTok videos. This is real evidence right here, guys. Kids have no freedom either. The suburbs not being part of the city is an odd choice. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, some suburbs are fine, but then some will just be completely away, like 10 miles away from the city. It's basically its own city at that point.
Full size.
But it has no ways to get to. It doesn't have grocery stores or anything like that.
Trick or treaters. Only 3 kids have showed up. At least the house looks cool.
For my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise,
oh my god, it's Alaska, bro. It's Alaska. You really think motherfuckers going out here in Alaska weather? I mean, you did it there was snow on the ground. I don't really imagine they're gonna come out to trick or treat if it's freezing out.
My mom finally can afford to hand out candy to trick or treaters, but
like when I lived in Geneva, I could basically go anywhere as a single-dish-old kid. All on my own and buy a specific flavor of Doritos. I won't lie, I was a very sheltered kid. When my father passed away when I was very young, and that caused my mom to shelter me for a while, so I did not get that experience, unfortunately. But when I became about 16, she was a lot less on me, so I was able to walk around, but I ran into the issue was everything was so far away, you know?
no one comes that face still.
Another year with no trick or treat. Oh no. Are you so sad? No trick or treaters again this year?
So even
yeah,
the
it
cat
seems like
is
an epidemic. Kids don't want candy. Seems like those anti-pedo lessons are working too well. Amen. Well, it also doesn't help when fucking people would put out fake news stories about like razor blades being in candies and shit.
Depressed by the state of Halloween. Can't take it anymore. And you know that this is a common issue because some of the most popular videos on TikTok and YouTube are about the fact.
It's funny that Matt's complains about lack of options to socialize when I keep seeing online all the fun community events and activities I miss.
Like that kids don't trick or treat anymore. This video has more than
Oh yeah.
10 million views, for example. Watch.
Instead of partying on Halloween, we give out candy every year.
Trick-or-treaters.
We haven't lived in this house long enough, so we don't know if anyone's coming tonight.
I just bought a lot in case. I even got healthy options.
Oh, what are you doing?
I'm setting up lights.
Why?
So they know where to come.
It's been an hour and there's still no one.
We have all our candy still.
Can I have a piece of candy?
No.
Why?
The kids need candy.
I don't think anyone's coming to our house, and Cobra is stress baking.
I'm making snacks.
Okay. It looks really good.
Whatever happened to Halloween spirit?
This very simple.
That felt so fake. I have no idea how to even process that. And also, it looked like they lived in a really big house. Fortunately, I don't care about any of this, and it's just the world of YouTubers, which is a small fraction of the country, thank God. Oh yeah, for sure. A lot of this, something I like to bring up is that a lot of the right-wing narratives are just all astroturfed. You know, they're not real. Like, the average American isn't feeling that way. When I talk about affordability, it's because I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling it too, you know.
Simple and straightforward 30-second video is half the viewership of the finale of Game of Thrones. And that's because it resonates. It's an experience everybody relates to. Everyone knows this kind of thing is happening at scale. We can all detect it, even if there are no studies that bear it.
He's doing the typical, everybody knows. Everybody gets it. I'm just saying the obvious stuff here, guys.
Out. We can all see it, but we don't really know
I'm
why.
speeding this
Now,
up. Sorry. Matt is just Matt.
For Halloween specifically, there are a lot of theories as to why young people aren't interested in trick-or-treating anymore. Maybe they're more interested in spending time on their cell phones than interacting with anybody in the real world. The COVID lockdowns, which forced children to become antisocial, obviously didn't help in that regard. There's also the fact that our culture has been trending heavily towards irony and cynicism, and therefore insecurity is an all-time high. Goofy traditions like when you go out in public in a ridiculous costume and interact with strangers, have fallen out of favor because they're considered embarrassing or uncool. So kids would rather stay inside, play video games, watch TikTok and YouTube videos, where they can watch an infinite number of other people being torn down and judged and ridiculed for one reason or another. Now, if you don't spend a lot of time in the world of TikTok, then you really have no idea how bad things have gotten. There's a whole genre of video called Pop the Balloon and Find Love, for example. It's like speed dating mixed with a game show. And in one incarnation of this concept, a preppy-looking host interviews a student, usually a guy, outside of his dorm room. And there's a bunch of girls lined up against the wall watching everybody.
Everybody knows, so now I must post this in case everybody doesn't know. Amen, dude. That's a great point. Everybody knows this fact, but I'm just gonna make sure you guys know it. Went with the kids today ice skating. Half the town was there. Shut the fuck up, Matt, you antisocial psycho. Oh, that sounds really fun, Sans. I hope you had a good time.
Which they pop as soon as they hear something they don't like. The idea is that if any girl is holding a balloon by the end of it, then the guy gets the chance to go out with her. But invariably, the guy says something extremely inconsequential that his audience doesn't approve of, and the girls pop the balloons and make some judgmental comments and walk away. That's the entire concept. Every one of these videos gets millions of views, if not tens of millions. The audience is predominantly children, and here's just one of the videos.
Welcome to Pop the Balloon. Can I have you sit right here? We're here with Zach. Zach, all right. All right, we're all good so far. What's your job? My job? Yeah.
This is just some children doing stuff. I don't know what this is. This supposed to show a
Okay. Why'd you pop?
Because we get an employment.
Okay, why'd you pop?
Because he has to be employed.
Can we have the final?
Is this the Sans? Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
We come right here. What's your dream date?
You know, we go to downtown.
Oh, okay.
Lily, get something to eat. And after, we go to Sunset Cliffs. Watch the sunset.
It's just only cliche romantic and boring.
Okay, well, you're cliche.
Maybe something more unique than that.
Okay, you got your too. All right, we have our winners.
Any culture in which trashy videos like this get 10 million views or more, which this one did.
Bro, this is literally just a bunch of children making a TikTok. I don't think that is in any way showing a societal shift.
He's not going to have many kids dressing up in silly little costumes and going out with their parents and knocking on doors for candy. Videos like this are a sign of a culture that's preoccupied with being judgmental and sarcastic at every opportunity. And it used to be that if you wanted to watch garbage like this, it meant that you were unemployed and sitting on your couch at 10 a.m. watching Jerry Springer or something like that. Now children and young adults are watching this kind of stuff all the time in huge numbers. And when you zoom out beyond the context of Halloween.
Matt, what did you just say? Oh, jeez. Gosh, it's so sad. We have to go from an amazing story about veterans learning to cope in society to this dipshit.
That's a very bad omen for neighborhoods in general. Overly judgmental and sarcastic people usually aren't good friends. They don't want to spend time with you, and you don't want to spend time with them. These observations still don't answer the fundamental question of why our culture has transformed like this and why neighborhoods have become so antisocial. Why is it more common than ever for everyone, especially young people?
I really do think Matt's probably, this is like a Matt issue, and he's projecting onto other people. His publisher says Matt lives outside Baltimore, Maryland, so I'm betting he lives in a very posh and unfun neighborhood. Yes. Like, if you don't like the way your neighborhood is, dude, you can move. And if you can't move, you probably should have you should have done some scouting a little bit.
To hunker down and watch dumb videos on the internet rather than engage with their communities. Recently, I came across this video from a man returning to his hometown in Pomona, California, and he identifies the problem immediately. Watch.
So this is the home.
Okay, I actually didn't know. Is this all Matt Walsh is? Is he just like a Benny Johnson? Where he'll just like put up videos? He set it all up. He set it up as they all popped their balloon to laugh, as the guy then showed. And then the guy showed the opposite of that. Yeah, he found a date.
That I spent most of my childhood in. When I lived here, none of these fences were here. My neighborhood now is not like it used to be. All these fences and palm trees were here. You could run from yard to yard through each another's yard. All my friends, we just run right through each neighborhood. As you can tell, this is what immigrant
Pretty much. I don't have him subbed for that. Yeah, I don't.
progress is.
I didn't
This is
know
where,
this was what Matt Walsh
this is totally
was.
Hispanic now. It's not even close to being when I grew up. This is where it is. You see the screen doors with iron. That's how they're living in my old neighborhood. They're locked in. They're caged in. They're living in a prison. This is where my grandmother lived, and all of this. There was bushes in between.
Maybe they just wanted privacy, dude. What's wrong with fences?
These houses, but none of these gates, none of the dogs. This is a totally Latino neighborhood now.
Yeah, maybe they have dogs, dude. Maybe they have to keep their dogs in the yard. I can think of 1,000 reasons why there's more fences now, and obvious that house doesn't have a fence.
You don't see a neighborhood that's welcoming now. Certainly not like it was in the 70s and 80s. It's changed quite a bit.
Now, his first-hand observation that higher immigrant populations have made his community more insular and more antisocial.
Oh God, here it is. Here it is, folks. The racism. Well, as you can see, higher immigrant populations have just made this neighborhood absolutely disgusting. I wouldn't want to live here.
Is actually something we do have data to support. This is data that's fallen out of favor in modern academia, but 20 years ago was the consensus. Earlier I mentioned Robert Putnam in his book Bowling Alone, but separate from that book, Putnam also published findings that clearly demonstrate the effect of diversity on community engagement. And the New York Times, of all places, promoted his work. Here's what they wrote. Quote, Harvard political scientist Robert Putnam has found that the greater the diversity in a community, the fewer people vote, and the less they volunteer, the less they give to charity and work on community projects. In the most diverse communities, neighbors trust one another about half as much as they do in the most homogenous settings. The study, the largest ever on civic engagement in America, found that virtually all measures of civic health
And
are
I'm
low.
also interested, this is, I'd be interested to see where this data, like how it's doing, how they're collecting this data. Because, for example, that may be true for a recent immigrant population that have just recently moved into the place. However, is that true 10 years from that date? I would argue no, that you see a increased level of community engagement after the initial non-engagement from when they first immigrate.
Lower in more diverse settings. Now, Putnam conducted his
And so I can already see how that I'd have to look into that, but it seems like that may be how they're gathering data. They're just taking the data from, regardless of if it's an immigrant community or a recent immigrant community or not. In his defense, I think this was brought up by the crew of whatever white people are considered the most unfun among other races. Well, to be fair, we did do some bad things in the past. I'm not gonna, not gonna say we didn't do bad things, but we got some fun traditions, jumping rope.
his research by sending surveys to 41 different U.S. communities, and he asked residents about how much.
I guess the issue is like white culture isn't really, in my opinion, a thing, Like maybe it is in Europe, but here in America, it's much more. We've created our own identity that doesn't require you to be white,
much they trusted their neighbors. He found that people living in more diverse communities, quote, tend to distrust their neighbors regardless of the color of their skin, to withdraw even from close friends, to expect the worst from their community and its leaders, to volunteer
Oh, we definitely have a history of abusive alcoholic forefathers. Oh, yeah,
less,
we do.
give less to charity and work on community projects less often, to register to vote less, to agitate for social reform more, to have less faith that they can actually make a difference, and to huddle unhappily in front of the television. You ever feel too busy to make healthy choices? Do you find yourself
And here's an ad,
tired of the other
ladies
days
and
that the healthy meal
gentlemen.
find yourself can make time however you like, everything from cinnamon, trying to the whole health system here to hunker whole health
I'm
system
not
for
buying that. I'm not buying that. Matt, what is that? I'm not
life with this
buying
limited time offer. Go to balanceofnature.com to claim this offer. As Putnam worded, quote, people living in ethnically diverse settings appear to hunker down, that is, to pull in like a turtle. And it wasn't just Putnam who came to this conclusion, quote, economist Matthew Kahn of UCLA.
White culture is not a thing in Europe. It's based on ethnicity. not race. Yeah, that's what I see pretty often in like other areas of the world where it's more based on ethnicity. And that's kind of foreign to me because I don't really get that personally.
And Dora Costa of MIT reviewed 15 recent studies in a 2003 paper, all of which linked diversity with lower levels of social capital. Greater ethnic diversity was linked, for example, to lower school funding, census response rates, and trust in others. Other research
And this is super insidious what he's implying here, because that may be the case, but you have to factor in, is it because there's a discriminatory policy or reasoning for that?
documented higher desertion rates in the Civil War.
Does it grow while the immigration is there?
Union Army soldiers serving in companies whose soldiers varied more by age, occupation, and birthplace. Again, all these studies are from 2003 or so. It's become extremely unfashionable to make this kind of point in public. But recently, as you may have seen, J.D. Vance went ahead and did it anyway. Watch.
Let's say a family of 5 that you've known for 5 years, 10 years, moves out of the house, is actually evicted from the house because there are people who are going to pay more for rent. And then what happens is 20 people move into a 3-bedroom house. 20 people from a totally different culture, totally different ways of interacting. Again, we can respect their dignity while also being angry at the Biden administration for letting that situation happen.
I mean,
and recognizing that their next door neighbor is going to say, well, wait a second, what is going on here? I don't know these people. They don't speak the same language that I do. And because there are 20 in the house next door, it's a little bit rowdier than it was when there was just a family of 4 or a family of 5. It is totally reasonable.
This is just a racist stereotyping by J.D. Vance. We all know what he's implying. Like a white Italian and white Croat both live in Berlin and still hate each other, and they don't give a he's white like me, describing reverse gentrification. Oh yeah.
Reasonable and acceptable for American citizens to look at their next door neighbors and say, I want to live next to people who I have something in common with. I don't want to live next to 4 families of strangers.
There's a reason that pretty much every population, whether they're in the suburbs, in prison, on a battlefield, or anywhere.
Why are people so uncomfortable with living next to people they're not like? I do not get this, dude. Like, I'd be excited, you know? It's like everybody in the neighborhood's got a different flavor. From Russia family, so that might have to started the habit. Oh yeah, good point.
Tends to self-segregate along the lines of race, national origin, and all of that.
But again, like, I have no issue living next to somebody who's different than me. I actually want that.
Not because they have some irrational hatred of anyone else, because they have a rational preference to be around people who speak their language, share common history and culture, and behave in ways that they expect people to act.
Even if they don't speak my language, I think that's an opportunity that you're looking at as a disadvantage. I mean, you live next to somebody who speaks an entirely different language. Go out there and learn that language. Go out there and help, you know, maybe you can catch some little tidbits there, and you can start learning the language yourself. The world is full of opportunity, Matt. You just need to go outside of your cabin and experience it.
But for most Americans, it's impossible to find a community like that at the moment. And it's especially hard for children. Only around 20% of the students in California public schools are white. Only around 30% of the children in Texas are white. Not too long ago, those numbers were north of 90%. So it's harder for kids to make friends due to demographic change, and it's harder for their parents to connect with other parents as well. So Vance said it should be completely
uncontroversial.
uncontroversial.
You want me to say womp womp? Like...
But it wasn't. It sparked a week-long outrage cycle, which included this response from Zohran Mamdani, the Muslim socialist who has now taken over the city of New York.
This language from the vice president of this country.
Actually don't care if someone is different. I just care if they're decent people, you know, not steal from me and not harass me or try to kill me, the important stuff. Yeah, and a lot of these immigrants aren't doing that, you know? A lot of these immigrants are just people like you and me who just are trying to make it in this world and escaped from a typically horrible place. A lot of these people. J.D. Vance thinks his household growing up too compares to his current household and goes, darn Jews took everything from me.
It betrays so much of the promise that we have as a nation. And I stand here at University Plaza proud to be an
Yeah, who even wants Latin and Asian food? Matt wants to eat nothing but spuds like it's his ancestors did, right?
Proud to call this borough my home, a borough where there are more languages spoken than most cities in the world, and proud to be on the precipice of becoming the first permanent mayor of the city of generations. And the fact that the vice president...
Like, imagine a world without Mexican food. That would be a world I wouldn't want to live in. Imagine if all the Mexican restaurants were replaced with traditional European restaurants. Oh God, please, not another plate of haggis.
You, someone speaking a different language in this country, is something that's... should be avoided. Is something that could be pushed out of our reality.
It is so emblematic of the politics that we are trying to show a contrast to. The politics that move
Brussels sprouts and California macaroni. Hey, I do like Brussels sprouts. I can't lie. They're pretty fire.
What Mamdani doesn't want to say, although he clearly believes it, is that he's also a proponent of homogenous neighborhoods. He just wants homogenous neighborhoods without white people, which is why he plans to raise taxes on white people to force as many of them out of the city as possible.
We went on your website and realized there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race.
I see what he's saying. I do think bringing race into it was a bad idea. Like, I see what he's saying. He's going to tax higher income areas instead of the lower income ones. But when you attach it to the whiteness of people, it's going to give people a bad taste in their mouth.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed.
So no plans to change that language.
Like, I do see what he's saying, though. But again, the messaging could have been a lot better. Because what he's saying isn't exactly crazy. He just wants to tax people who have a higher income than the people with lower income. But when you frame it as, oh, I'm going to tax white neighborhoods, it makes it seem like, oh, so you're just singling out one race, and that can make people uncomfortable. But I see what he's saying, and I know, and I agree, like, yeah, you probably should tax people who are making more money.
On your website.
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and the use of that language is an assessment of the neighborhood.
All right.
This is how Mamdani is planning to sell the large-scale replacement of whites in New York, which has already been well underway for the better part of the century. According to data from the mayor's office, 1 in 5 New Yorkers can't speak English.
Yep, there's no more whites in, it's like you're a minority, and if you're white, you're a minority.
Language, 40% weren't born in this country. If you encounter a random New Yorker on the street, there's a good chance he can't understand a word you're saying, hates everything you stand for, and survives off your tax dollars. And yet in New York, 40% of people living in rent-controlled housing are foreign-borns, and so Americans are paying for these people who despise us.
Yeah, I
can't relate to
agree.
us in any...
The fact that there are poor white people and rich black people, it would cause a divide. I totally agree with that. You shouldn't, just in the messaging, you know, because I agree with the policy of just taxing people who make more money, but not based, you know, don't put the race aspect in there.
meaningful way. Yeah, we're paying for them to take our property from us. If you're an American who wants to rent a tiny one-bedroom apartment in New York, you'll easily spend more than $2,000 a month. And many tenants in rent-controlled units pay less than half of that. This phenomenon is not just playing out in New York. We've talked at length about communities like Dearborn and Minneapolis, but it's far more widespread than that. Haitians and Somalis have seized control of entire communities in Ohio and Washington State, for example, and southern states.
The Somali hatred is bullshit, dude. And it really leaves a gross taste in my mouth when anybody does it, because it's pretty obvious. Like, the Somalian immigrants are American, they've started businesses, they've started all sorts of really great things for the community, and now, because a couple of them committed fraud, like I think it was 90, or not even that, like 60, I think, people committed fraud. Now the entire community gets blamed for being a bunch of thieves. It's bullshit. Did you just say people with money can't be racist against green? True.
In Tennessee, Kentucky, North and South Dakota.
That's very true. I agree.
Maryland and so on. The population of Hispanics has
and I
grown
like Mamdani too, you know.
drastically, often by more than 200%, just the last 2 decades. The trajectory is bad and it's getting worse. You know, whites are no longer the majority of births in many states. Leave It to Beaver is basically a foreign concept for a foreign country now. Who voted for that, by the way? Well, we all know the answer to that question. More than any other single factor, this is the reason that...
This is the end of his video. What did we learn?
Neighborliness has died. This is the reason that communities have decayed and neighborhoods have become insular. They're much less...
That's the thing. The rich white people don't live in New York. They live in the suburbs where they don't pay enough taxes to hold their own streets together. It all comes from the city.
...in common with one another than ever before. It's not simply that we're importing more immigrants. It's that the foreigners we're importing are nothing like the Irish or the Germans or the Brits. They're people who harbor a deep and abiding disdain for...
Could you make it any more obvious, Matt? You could have said at least one slightly brown race there.
this country come from cultures that are completely alien to our own. They have nothing in common.
And I don't agree. I think like the culture of Mexico isn't that different from the culture of America. We're very intertwined, believe it or not. The only thing I learned is Matt is bored and his neighbors don't want to have fun with him. Yeah, I think that's the lesson of today, is that Matt needs more friends. Something immigrants bad. Yeah, basically. Delusional Redditor. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I think that basically wraps up all that I had to talk about today. little bit of a shorter episode today because I had some work-related stuff pop up, unfortunately. Yeah, Mexicans are also Spanish, and Spanish people are white. That's something I always found really weird, is that they say it's like this super foreign culture, but Mexico was conquered by Spain, and that we're not that different, you know? I don't know. It's this whole culture battle that I think is bullshit. I think America is great when we take things from other cultures and make them our own, you know? I think that's kind of the melting pot experience. It's not our fault we learned it. The Irish and the Italians that did all the crime and invented the fucking mafia, those were fine for some reason. Well, you bring up a great point, and it kind of just shows that this isn't about culture. This isn't about, trying to make a better society. It's just about being racist and not trying to seem that way to the public. But I think that, anybody in my chat, I'm sure, saw how that was just kind of racist, So, anyways, I think I'm going to end it off. I'm your standard California mutt. I have a lot of cultures in my genetic profile. Hey, same here. I can't, my ancestors fled from Russia when the revolution was going on and came to America, and I've got a lot in my DNA too, from like Native Americans to obviously the Russian that I just mentioned, but that's what America is. It's a mixing pot of different ideas and different cultures all coming together and becoming their best versions of themselves. I think that's what America is about. And it's one of the reasons I love this country so much. Anyways, guys, I am going to head out of here. A little bit of a shorter episode today, but let me raid into somebody. Shout out to all the people in chat, by the way. You guys are super sick. Thank you so much for stopping by and saying what's up. I'll send you to Loner Box. I think that's who we're going to today. I think Loner will be a good person to send out to. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe.
Mao was so good at this as well. Like,
hello,
when he
Loner.
wanted to rally people in China
How are you?
against the party because he was losing power.
Anyways, that was the person I'm about to raid you into. Have a great day, guy. Yeah, you too, Brian. It was good seeing you. Thanks for stopping by. Phew, no Fritas? Yeah, don't worry. I just brought him up to show the manly man stuff he had behind him. That Matt Walsh kind of has a similar set of stuff behind him. Yeah, I'll be live tomorrow, by the way, guys, at 10 a.m. my regular time. So soon we're going to be watching the Conduit video. I've been trying to set up a date for that. It's just been a little difficult. So we will be watching the Conduit video at some point. All right, but I will see you soldiers tomorrow. Go say what's up to Loner for me. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. Stay strong out there, soldiers. I believe in you. I don't want Loner. He snubbed us too long. I know. Well, the only way we're gonna get in there is the only way we'll get unsnubbed is if we send a column of our most fervent supporters. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day.